If you work in law enforcement, the military, fire, EMS, or really any of the high threat professions, you've probably heard people talk about trauma in ways that don't sit right with you. It's either oversimplified or over dramatized, or it's framed like you're fragile. And that's part of the problem, because trauma is not a weakness. PTSD is not a personality flaw. And complex PTSD is not being broken. Trauma is a load management problem inside the nervous system. And if you start to understand it in that way, everything changes. Most people think trauma is about what happened. It's not. Trauma is about what your nervous system had to do to survive that problem, and what it never got the chance to finish processing afterwards. If you've ever been in some kind of critical incident, whether it be a shooting, a bad call, combat, or just years of accumulated exposure, your system did exactly what it was designed to do. It narrowed focus. It suppressed emotion. It prioritized speed and vigilance and survival. That's not pathology. That's training. The problem starts after the threat is gone. Here's an analogy that I use with my cops. If you do a PIT or TVI and the suspect vehicle spins out, you shouldn't immediately sprint up to the car. I know we've all done it, but look, at least you're not supposed to. You stop at your patrol car. You use cover. You assess the situation. You call the suspect out. Why? Because rushing the car creates chaos. You lose your angles. You lose information. You lose control. You can rush it, and most of the time you'll get away with it. And then one day, you won't. Trauma works in that very same way. PTSD isn't caused by the incident itself. That traumatic stress happens when the nervous system never gets to stand down. It never gets containment, and it never gets a controlled approach to what actually happened. Instead of processing the event, the system just keeps frozen. It's like a hot scene that never actually got cleared. So let's define some terms clearly, because most people in this arena don't. PTSD in its simplest form is a stuck threat response. The brain still thinks the danger is present, even if you and I both know it's not. And this shows up as things like hypervigilance, nightmares, irritability, intrusive thoughts, exaggerated startle, emotional reactivity. That's the nervous system staying in patrol mode when the call is already over. So complex PTSD is different, and this is where public safety and the military get misunderstood. Complex PTSD is not just one event. It's about repeated exposure. It's often combined with things like betrayal, moral injury, chronic responsibility, lack of recovery time, lack of safe attachment, lack of decompression. In other words, the system never gets relief. No staging, no cover, no off switch. Over time, the nervous system adapts by shutting things down. That's where you see emotional numbness, autopilot living, loss of meaning, detachment from family, ideation without emotional intensity. I don't feel depressed, I just don't care. I hear it often. That's not depression, that's neural exhaustion. So here's the part most people miss. Complex trauma isn't just about the bad things that happened. It's about good things that never happened. No safety, no consistent rest, no secure attachment, no chance to feel protected instead of being the protector. Those absences create information gaps in your nervous system. You can't connect a memory to calm if calm was never learned. That's not resistance, that's physics. So this is where EMDR and the adaptive information processing model come in. EMDR is not magic. It's not hypnosis, and it's not reliving trauma for the sake of pain. EMDR is a neural processing intervention. That AIP model says this: when an experience overwhelms the system, it gets stored improperly. It stays isolated, unlinked, and raw. Symptoms are not the problem. Symptoms are the signal that processing never finished. So here's the key point for you warriors. EMDR is not rushing the car. Good EMDR is tactical. It builds containment. It establishes resources. It assesses your readiness. Then and only then, it approaches the memory under controlled conditions. If you rush trauma without preparation, the nervous system reacts exactly like a bad approach. dissociation and shutdown, emotional flooding, worsening symptoms, increased ideation. It's not failure, it's poor sequencing. This is why so many high-performing operators say therapy didn't work for me. What they really mean is somebody rushed the car. There's another misconception that I want to clear up in this. A lot of public safety and military members believe that if I talk about it enough, it should go away. But trauma is not resolved cognitively. You were wounded experientially. You will heal experientially. You can understand everything there is to know about your trauma and still be stuck. Insight does not equal integration. Thinking harder does not fix a nervous system problem. And this is where I'll challenge you directly. If you live on autopilot, if you stay busy to avoid stillness, if you overwork, overtrain, or overfunction, if you feel calm only when there's chaos, that's not discipline, that's conditioning. Your nervous system learned that threat equals purpose. EMDR helps decouple those things, not by making you soft, but by giving your system permission to actually stand down. So let's talk about responsibility, because this does matter. Trauma explains your reactions, but it does not excuse staying stuck. You don't get to say, this is just how I am now. That's letting a survival reflex actually run your life. The job trained your nervous system for danger. And at the time, that was necessary. But if you don't retrain it for peace, for connection, and for meaning, it'll turn on you. I've seen it 1,000 times right in my office. Healing is not avoidance. Healing is sequencing. You don't ignore the calls. You don't pretend the incident never happened in the first place. You slow down, you take some good cover, and you control the environment. Then you can approach it. That is EMDR done right. If you're in public safety, you're in the military, and this resonates, here's what I want you to hear very clearly. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not failing. Your nervous system has been carrying a load it was never meant to carry indefinitely. And systems under a constant load eventually degrade. That's not moral. That's mechanical. The goal of good trauma treatment is not to make you feel less intense. It's to give you command back over your own system. So you're not reacting. You're choosing. You're not just surviving. You're actually living. So you don't confuse urgency with necessity. Now, if some of this in this video hits home, good. That means your system recognizes the truth. And if you want to understand trauma at this level, not as pathology, but as neurobiology under pressure, that's the work that I do. Not to coddle you, not to label you, but to return control where it actually belongs.